on and so forth. So I was like that. I was always on stage doing one thing or the other. Okay. I was always on stage doing one thing or the other. And so because of that, somehow it translated into me doing law. It was just like the normal, it's the way we, how can I say, it's the way we translated it at the time. If you were doing literature and you loved books and you were on stage and you were speaking and you were doing debate, then you must be a lawyer. That's just what it was at the time. I mean, I'm 35, so, you know, we can do the math when I was younger. So that just seemed to be what everybody said I was supposed to do. I said, oh, okay, I think. But there was always a knowing somewhere in the back of my mind that it wasn't quite right. I like to tell this story of when I was in law school, and I've always been pretty good at school. It was never, I didn't struggle too much with academics, thank God. I was always, like top 10 type of person. So it wasn't too hard for me academically. And when I started to do law, I wasn't top, I was like just, average, because I honestly didn't have the interest. And I remember this one semester, it must have been third year. It must have been, yes, it was third year. And I don't, maybe it was my first semester. And I told myself, you know what if I really liked this thing? If I really liked the law, what could that look like? And so I, for the first time, since I joined law school, actually put in some real effort. And then that was the one and only semester that I was on the dean's list. I didn't bother to do that again. I didn't care enough. And I'm not saying don't care. Please don't take this as advice. It proved to me that I didn't have a heart for what I was doing. And I mean, I can only say that by the grace of God, I can't even say it's any other thing, but by the grace of God, I've always had a knowledge that whatever I do will only truly have meaning if it's of service to someone, if it's of service. And if you don't care about a thing, it's really tough to serve. You can do it, it's just a lot harder. And so, getting into law, and I didn't practice properly. I was only, when I was in Nairobi, I did my pupillage, or wait, what do we call it here? This is how far removed I am from legal practice. I did my pupillage at a law firm. That's as much law firm work as I did. I worked in corporate for a bit, and then I went into civil service, which wasn't litigation. And during that time, I was serving, I was working, but I just realized I needed to be doing something else where I could truly serve, something I care about, something I can pour myself into. And that's how I just looked for a venting place, and my venting place was writing. And so I was blogging. I don't know what our age range looks like here. I feel like blogging is not as much of a thing as it was back then. We were all on WordPress. That's where we were hanging out. It was the Instagram. We were on WordPress and all of that. And so I just started to write, and that sort of it led me to being interested in video. And then I went online and learned all these different things about content. And there was a feeling that if I was doing something I like, I can be more of service. And so I started to tap into the things I liked, just to give myself a place to vent, but also a place to try stuff. I was like, oh, I've liked writing for a while. Let's do that. Videos are interesting. Let's try that. So I just gave myself the opportunity to try and see, oh, maybe can I be of service there? Could that be interesting? And that just sort of rippled. The more I did it, the more interest I had, the more I researched. And then I just kind of followed the trajectory, oh, you're creating videos. Now you're on YouTube. Somewhere down the line, you're on a podcast. It was organic. The more I pursued service, it just took me in a very natural, for me, it was like a natural leaning towards content, because I thought, okay, yeah, this is something I care about. So maybe then I can be able to help people who care about the same stuff as well. Yeah, hopefully that answers the question.
Well, that's such a fascinating answer. And really to see these components of really having a heart to serve, but then at the same time, finding what you love and not being in this narrow box of, if I'm going to be of service, it means I have to be a lawyer, I have to be a human rights lawyer, I have to work at FIDA, which is really a good way of serving people, but knowing that that was not authentic to you, and really going on this journey of discovering what is authentic service and trying all these different things that have now, that have now led you to where you are at the moment, and who knows what the future will hold. And now, bearing in mind that you do have that law degree, that you didn't work yourself to death for, but you did work very hard for. And
Yeah.
Do you think having this legal background is influencing even now the way that you think about content, ethics, voice, the responsibility, like everything that you do in the online space? Is it useful to you at the moment? Do you think it gave you some kind of a grounding that still serves you in the work that you do today?
Yes. The quick answer is definitely yes. I am a big, okay, I'll probably say God a couple of times. Forgive me if it's not, palatable for some people, but it's the filter through which I see a lot of things. And so everything we do, even the things we fail at, even the things we're uncertain of, God finds a way to use. So even law, which was so, for me, even that God has found a way to use in my current circumstances. I am so pressed. I am so pressed by the issue of integrity and ethics when it comes to being a content creator. It's such a diverse and ever-changing landscape. And also, it's like anyone can wake up tomorrow and have a podcast, and anybody can wake up tomorrow and anybody can wake up and do all of these things and maybe even go viral randomly, and all of a sudden they have influence or some measure of it or something that looks like it. And the challenge is a lot of these people are doing it without the knowledge of what a responsibility influence is. It's such I there are so many times I've been taken aback when I realize that the way I live my life is actually impacts some of the decisions younger people than me make, or even my peers. And that was like a pause moment for me of, oh wow, this isn't just people just like to hang out with you online, or it's not just entertainment. Those are all aspects of it, but there's so much more. And so it presses me to see when we forget, for example, that someone being an enthusiast and being an expert are two very different things. I can be enthusiastic about skincare. It's something that I love to do. That's something I find fun and interesting. But to be an expert is a completely different thing. So if I come online and tell you guys, this is the right product and this is wrong, and if you're doing this, and I'm making all these blanket statements that are like facts, when I don't have an education around it, all I have is just a love and an interest in it, then we actually cause problems. And that it spirals. It's not just in areas like fashion or beauty. It's the same thing if we're talking about things like mental health, or more serious, and then it goes all the way to misinformation and disinformation. If I have an audience even of just 50 people, and I'm not double checking, I'm not cross checking where my information comes from, and they're taking news from me, then that's a whole thing. People are getting their news off Twitter now. And if I'm this big Twitter influencer who is not, double checking the things I tell them, then that ripples. Next thing you know, it's on WhatsApp groups and so on and so forth. And so for me, I really believe the legal background gave me a strong sense of that. Like from the beginning, I've very much been a person of disclaimers. Oh, you guys, this is really interesting to me, but I'm not an expert. What if we hosted an expert to talk about that? Oh, the experts are saying this and that. Are you guys experts? Come on board. Tell me what's happening. Let's talk about it. And that's still something that's lacking. So many people are just kind of going. And it's not necessarily from a place of, it's not always from a negative place. Sometimes it's just ignorance. We don't realize the power that we wield as influencers. And you don't have to be Kim Kardashian. You could have just 50 people that care about what you say. And that's it. You've misled 50 people, or you've created a product. I think something that I'm seeing a lot that I think is really, really problematic is how there are creators, for example, who lean somewhere into the, let me give the example of, maybe you're a mom who is creating content around being a mom or being a wife and such. And so then you create consultations, book me for a consultation and pay X amount of dollars so that I can give you guidance on one, two, three. And essentially what you're offering is therapy and counseling that you're not trained for. You're only coming from a place of what you know, and you don't even divulge that. And people are coming feeling like, yeah, this person is going to help me. But can you actually? Can you actually? So I feel like that's for me has been such a big thing. And it's one of the things that we considered so strongly when we were starting Karma Digital, because ethics is something we don't consider as creators. We see it as journalists do that, and these people do that. But this is now becoming a real career and a real space of influence. So you can't avoid the responsibility that comes with influence. Yeah.
Well, that's a really, really fascinating way of viewing it, and also the way that most likely your like your legal training did influence your lens of ethics in a way that you might not have at this level of awareness now. And also to be mindful of the platform that you occupy, and the fact that you do actually wield a lot of power by having even a small following, though you do have a very large following, and to understand what the responsibility is that goes with. So it's very, very fascinating to hear your reflection on how you view ethics in the way that you create content and put it out there. So at this point, we would really love to hear more about Karma Digital Content Hub, and really your vision for this hub, where it came from, and why you felt that it was necessary to create this. Yeah, please tell us more.
Oh, think how much time do I have? This is it is our baby, so I have to like reel myself in. I could talk about it all day. But Karma Digital really came from a place. I remember like we had all these conversations about how content creators were cropping up, just all these really talented young people. They want to do this, they want to create that. And we thought, oh, that's really cool. That means our space is growing. It's not just, a couple of people, 5 or 6 people doing this. This is becoming like something real. And so we thought, as we observed, the growth and sprouting of all these creators, we recognized in them the same things that we faced. We recognized the same challenges. We recognized, just the lack of information and just the skilling. Because, I mean, one argument that may be made is go on YouTube, you'll find lots of videos. We would know because my partners and I learned a lot of stuff on YouTube. YouTube is a fantastic resource. You will go and learn how to use your phone properly. You will go and learn how to use a camera, there's so much you can learn. It's actually a very useful resource. The challenge is some of those things don't apply in the exact same way in our context. Uganda is just like a very specific context, and building an organic audience here, while there are some things that are just, general, they'll apply wherever you are. There are some things you need to tweak to fit this audience here. There are certain nuances in our market because it's in Uganda that you don't know when you're starting out and you're watching American creators and I don't know, people from all over the world telling you all of these things. And those things are true for their context, but not so much here. And so having had the privilege of being one of the earlier creators, we thought, what if we could make this journey easier for them? And just provide the kind of skilling we never had and just make it easier, because content creation as the years go by is only going to become more and more relevant. I don't think there's no going back from tech, and there's just no going back. There's no going back from social media. That all of these things are existing with us now. And so how can we help the people that want to utilize these platforms to work, to be advocates, now there's just so much you can do to build businesses. How can we help those people to have the right tools to start properly, to build audiences organically? There was a time when everyone thought that if you're a business online, you have to buy followers. That's how you do it. That's the correct thing. Always met these people saying, oh my goodness, today I woke up and I bought 30,000 followers. I feel amazing. And so then we had to teach them that when you buy followers, you're buying bots. You can't engage with them. They're not customers. There's nothing actually that they're doing for you. And so there are ways to actually find your ideal customers online. And this is how you approach this. So we just realized there was this wealth of knowledge that we've been building up, and that we could tailor that to help different groups of people. We started with content creators because that's the closest to us. We are content creators. And now we are going more into business. Now that we are a business as well that's working online, and we've learned a couple of things, we're like, okay, we can actually teach businesses how to approach certain things better. How do you, and it doesn't have to cost a whole lot of money, because we are also a small business. We know what it means to have just a little to start with. So how do you use the little you have to create content that's engaging? Don't try to talk to everyone. Try to talk to your people. What does that look like online? How do you engage meaningfully and create communities that care about your brand story. You know, how do you connect a little bit more deeply on social media? Because social media can be very surface level. So what does it mean to connect with people deeply? And so that's where Karma Digital came from. We said we are going to create learning products. We're going to create courses. We're going to help people learn how to do this thing properly in a way that can help them really harness whatever talent or skill that they have, be able to teach as well, because what we're doing is teaching, we're monetizing our knowledge. We are teaching people how to do the same. And also enable our space to become an income generating place, that you're not just spending a lot of money to create content, because it can be expensive to create content. So you're not just doing this super expensive hobby and not sure how you can actually make it an income generating activity for you. So those are the couple of things that came together to make us think, okay, no, we're going to do this and just start small. And we're about a year and a half now. We're learning. We've been able to have four cohorts of young creators that we're teaching, and now we're just really in a community building phase, getting everybody to know each other, have some get-togethers where we can practice, where we can follow their journeys more intimately and provide very close by support to understand, because this space keeps shifting. So even we are learning from them. So, okay, what's shifting for you? What is this meaning for where you're going? And yeah, we're just like probably everybody else who's trying to serve. We're trying to find people who are aligned with that so they can help us pour into the community. Yeah.
What a fascinating journey. And it's really so interesting to hear that, like the thing that you're good at, you're also teaching others to, to do the same. Like you've learned how to monetize your knowledge and present it in a way that it's so engaging and so delightful to learn, and how really teaching the same thing to others. It's really, really fascinating. And also, I didn't realize that the hub was that young. I thought it was, like it seems to be really up and running for something that was only established a year and a half ago. So
Thank you.
that's great to learn. So at this stage, I would like to hand over to our advocacy and communications manager, Elizabeth. And she has also, I would say, kind of a similar story to yours, and she will take our conversation forward. So Elizabeth, over to you.
Thank you so much, Lynette, for kicking us off. Kemigisha, it's a pleasure to meet you. I was telling people on my status just the other day that I have seen your work, I have seen your content, but we have not met. And this was an opportunity for me. So FIDA is the platform that I'm using to shoot my shot and just to appreciate the fact that your content is very relatable, but also I think you have figured out what you want. It really looks like it. You just haven't figured it out just yourself. We also see that you have figured out what you want to do, who you want to be. And I think that's a thing that many of us don't get to experience either at a young age, or many of us don't get the support that we need to. But also many times, especially women, do not get the opportunity to have this to have this opportunity to do the things that they feel they really want to do. So thank you very, very much for accepting to speak to us. We have wanted to speak to you for a minute. So thank you so much. I'll just continue with the conversation where Lynette has left it off. Maybe allow me to introduce myself, because I see some unfamiliar names on the session. My name is Elizabeth Kemigisha, and I work with Lynette and everybody that may be on this session today, our episode of the coffee series. I work at FIDA as the Advocacy and Communications Manager, an institution of 50 years. So we are extremely grateful that Kemigisha, for the next 50 years of conversations, for the next many episodes of the coffee series, that you have accepted to be part of that, her story of FIDA. So I'll just get into quickly on one of the pieces of work that you're part of. That is the Unpopular Opinion Uganda, which is really known for addressing topics that are often either swept under the rug or very uncomfortable, or because of who we are, they're not topics that are appealing even to the general public or to the Gen Z or to whoever else that we might want to be having these conversations with. So why do you think that it's important for women, especially for us African women, to reclaim the space for these conversations?
Thank you, fellow Kemigisha. It's
Mhm.
it's always nice to just meet your namesake. So thank you. Why is it important? So there was something you said actually about how not everyone gets the opportunity. I think about that often, and what a privilege it is to be able to do what I'm doing now. It's never lost on me, and the fact that it's a privilege, and many people maybe even live their lives without being able to step out of the box. Maybe it's just not an option, or maybe responsibilities. It's never lost on me. But going back to your question about why it's so important for women to occupy not just this space but every other, I I often struggle. It's probably one of the reasons why I'm not active on X. Actually, let's be honest, it is probably the reason. I I struggle with when people talk about feminism like it's something that needs to be extinct already. Like it's something that we don't need. Like, calm down. Women are everywhere now. You guys are lead. I struggle with that thing so much because I always think the people who are saying that, I mean, there's many reasons, but one of the reasons is you're just not paying attention. You know, you're not paying attention to the fact that the wage gap, not just here in the third world, but internationally, is still so wide. And it's not to take away from all of the immense growth that we have made in these hundreds of years, but to think that even with all that growth here in 2025, the wage gap is still what it is wild, don't you think? You're not, if you're saying that you're not paying attention to what the playing field looks like in most professions, that you and I could be a researcher. Let's say I'm a woman, I'm a researcher, and I'm saying this specifically because I had the privilege of being part of an amazing campaign that Danita was running around women in research, and it was international. It was so interesting to hear how what the women in Denmark are facing it is the same thing the Ugandan researchers are facing. That for me, a female researcher that wants to go and study abroad, I get the funding, I get the scholarship, I have a child, right? And there's a gentleman in the same position, and he's going, and he has a child too, he's married, but the responsibility of childcare is on women primarily, right? And so that means for the woman, what she needs is not just all the basic things that come in that scholarship package. It's also childcare, so she can be able to be present to study and do all of the things that are required of her in that place. And for the gentleman, he lives his children with his wife, and he goes almost unencumbered to achieve the exact same things as the woman. And that's the story of not just that field, but every other. Different versions, but the same thing. So it's really important for us to have our voices heard in every space that we can, because if we are not talking about these things, then who? How do we help even other women understand these things? How do we help men understand these things? Because they are actually, they are important in what we are trying to achieve for women in different spaces. We can't, I don't think we can even afford to be silent. We have to get uncomfortable and occupy the different places so that our voices are not something people can shove aside. That it's important that we hear from women, whether it's oil and gas or digital content creation or medicine. So how important is it? It is, what is the word, sacrosanct, too important to change. It is absolutely imperative that we, no matter what space we are occupying, our voices, that we have a platform where we can speak about things, uncomfortable things, even within us. Because even within us, there are some, even within just women, there are things that sometimes we're not sure how to navigate. So normalize those things. I love that we are living in a time where talking about menstruation and period, poverty, like all of these things we speak about them openly. I love that young girls are growing up in a world where it's not shameful or weird to talk about menstruating, because it's a part of our existence. So we have to be. There is no other way, actually.
I hear you, Fiona, about especially where you come from when you say that. I think the major reason why you are no longer really very active on X is because of just how conversations many times are just got out of context. You give an example of, actually, I like that particularly, you particularly say that we can't afford to be silent. And just a gentle reminder to all of us that our silence rarely really protects us. And for people that are in the line of work that we are in, I think speaking out many times is part of the advocacy work that we do. How long a particular subject is talked about on social media, in the mainstream media, I think also shows you how important the conversation is for everyone that is in it. But I also like that you begin off by something that I always find very interesting in the different rooms that we engage in as FIDA, where you find people. So you see the women, you see the ED of Stanbic, it's a woman. In fact, do you see the people that read the news on the TV? Those are women. In fact, do you know the VP is a woman? Do you know that we have members of parliament that are women? And I think that derails me many times too, because you have to go back to explaining what that means. It needs you to be paying attention to know what these different dynamics are. What does it mean that we have a VP who is a woman? What does it mean? What's the quality of that person? What is their contribution to the bigger, picture of having more women having these conversations? So thank you very much for that. My next question, Fiona, was on something that I think you're so brave for doing, one, but also I just wanted to sneak in this of people that support you, your parents, your guardians through education, what their general feeling was when you decided to switch. So when you're responding to this question, please set us off from there on what their general response was when you said, you know what, I'm putting my boots down at this ministry, a government job, to actually go and create content. I just do not know how that conversation will go with my father or my mother, because what they think is creating content is what they see on their TikTok that has gone so viral these days. So I don't know if that would make sense. That's one of the questions that I'd like for you to respond to. But also something else that I think we would like to hear from you about is any advice that you would have for any young lawyers who feel stuck or boxed in by traditional career expectations, but they're very curious about using their skills in a different way to be able maybe to impact communities, to be able to support awareness creation on different things, but also generally thrive in terms of careers.
All right. Okay, let me start with the first one. It's, I think one of every time, the couple of times that people ask me, what was the reaction, or maybe family and friends and stuff, when you shared that you're going to just leave civil service. And I remember for my parents, I think the deepest shock was just coming from, like, you are aware that's a permanent and pensionable job, right? Like, this is something you're aware of, yes. And I think for them that was one of the main shocks. Like, you're going to leave something permanent and pensionable to explore, okay? And you're telling this to parents who are born in the 60s, you know? And so that was definitely wild for them. I have so much empathy. It's interesting answering these different questions now at 35, maybe from when I was answering them at maybe 30 or 29. Because now I have a lot more empathy for them. You know how you get older and you just start to have more empathy for your parents. They were confused, Bambi. They were confused. They were not understanding where I was hoping to go. I could barely articulate what it is exactly that I wanted to do. I had a very general idea, but I knew that if I kept treating it as a hobby, it could never become something real, something that's of service, something that can earn me an income. It could never become that if I was always only treating it as a hobby or like a side thing. I think one of the things also at Kama Digital we keep saying is that we don't know really how to teach people how to do side gigs because we're not side gig people. All the things we do are main gigs, So it was confusing. It was confusing for them. I think that and maybe being a firstborn plays in my favor, but also my personality is pretty firm. And so I was clear about what it is that I was going to do. I had taken the steps also to make sure that I had saved up to a certain point because I was already living by myself at the time. So it was like, I'm taking care of myself, I'm living by myself. So I don't know, that I guess that was also two-way for them because yeah, they are glad you can take care of yourself, but also they're like, can she sustain this? How long? Are you going to finish those savings? So it was confusing for them, but me being me and being clear about what I wanted to do, there was only so much. There was only so much they could do, And I know even that is a privilege because perhaps some parents would, I don't know, African parents can be crazy. Maybe there was some other crazy way they could have reacted, but I think ultimately they just realized that the resolve was genuine and that I was going to do what I said I was going to do. And again, it's such a privilege to have them and to have them be willing to support me because even though they didn't know what I was going to do, there was always this thing of, you know what, we don't get this thing, but like if it fails, if what you have a home, just come back, and I mean, that's such a privilege. I know not everybody is able to have that cushioning, like even if I wasn't, it wasn't my plan to go and lean into that cushioning, but it's there. It's a very comforting thing to have in the back of your mind. So that's really how it went. I feel like with friends, I don't know, you know how, those reels or the memes where they'll be saying like, you and your delusional friends just encouraging each other in things you don't understand. That was me and my delusional girlfriends. Just, sis, I know it can work. What? Yes, I can already see it. Actually, if you do it like this, just advising each other, not knowing anything. So my friends were just with me in it. And so again, even that I know is a privilege. I've been very privileged to have very supportive people around me. They didn't always understand, but they were like, you know what, let's give it a shot. Every product I ever developed, they were always the first people to buy them. No matter what. So I think that's what the reactions looked like for me. And now talking about it seems very light, but it was hard, especially for my parents. Like it was just like very confusing. I keep saying, maybe this is the year. I think this is the year that I will do for them a PowerPoint presentation to explain to them deeply what I do. Because even now it's like, they have like a general idea. I'm like, Bambi, what are they telling people when they ask them, what does your daughter do? Your firstborn child? What does she do? What is her profession? I'm like, I think this is the year I do a PowerPoint so that they're able to also tell people now, number one, number two. Yeah. So that's what that looked like. As far as advice, for, the young lawyer who maybe has other interests and so on, I'd say one of the things I keep saying is just remain curious. And not just curious inside here, but curious enough to try things. I think one of the wonderful things about the law is that it's so broad. I mean, how fantastic is it that some people are entertainment lawyers and then the other person is a family litigator. It's actually quite fascinating. Like the law can enable you, or it's almost flexible enough to allow you to do very many things if you are willing, because we are still in a pretty traditional, society here in Uganda. But if you allow yourself, I've seen lawyers do so many interesting things. So many. I am just one of, I think, thousands, and I think that's wonderful for us. So remain curious and curious enough to try certain things. If you do not try them, then truly you cannot know. So try things, and perhaps this goes back to trying. I think a lot of things come back to opening your mind, because we've grown up in our education system was pretty like straight, like this is the thing, this is what success looks like, this is, all of the things are just very like it's a square, and so attempting to be something other than that can be really scary. But and you've maybe had this a million times before. I think it will never stop being a relevant thing for us to hear, all of us, myself included, that good things are difficult. They just are. There's no easy way to venture out and do something. There's just no easy way. I think you most of the time have to choose which hard is the one that you're going to go with. Which hard for you is of service, which hard for you makes sense for the life that you're trying to build. So remain open to figuring out what that is. Maybe, I don't know, I think that many of us miss out on being of service in many ways because we feel like once we found one thing, everything has to just be exactly like this. I think that's it's a difficult way to, or maybe it's an easy way to live. Perhaps that is the easy path actually, because this venturing out business is crazy. It is crazy. Running a business is crazy. I keep saying there's seasons where everything, you're like, wow, this is amazing. I can't wait. You're developing things. The wheels are turning. Then there are seasons where you're like, is this the day I close this business? Actually, today might be the day. Today, on the 15th, I am closing this business. So perhaps this road less traveled is the harder one, now that I think about it. So stay open and ask people. There are so many things I wish I had consulted about earlier in my journey. I usually just talk to people, ask them, oh, so running a business, first tell me. I wish I'd sat down with people. I had to learn a lot of things the hard way because I felt like, yeah, no, I can do this. Firstborn complexes. Like I know I can, and I can do this and I can do that on my own and by myself and all of the things, which is not the case. We are really designed for community. You need people. So ask as many questions as often as you can. If you've already had like a thing that's sort of been marinating, like go forth and find the people that you can ask questions. It is very, very, very helpful. It will help you make decisions from a place of you have more information to work with, that if you were to make a certain drastic change like I did, that maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 would ease that transition. Or maybe these are the difficulties that I can expect on the way. Maybe some of them you can prepare for them. Some of the preparation, sometimes it's just mental. Some things you can't even prepare for like physically, but some of the things are just mental. But I can face this. So that when it comes, it won't sweep you away, because running a business is like that. Some things can come and make you feel like you have gone down the river. So those are the first thing that comes to mind. But also just to be grounded in something, and perhaps this is more of a life thing as opposed to just the young person, this person that we are envisaging me advising. Just be grounded in something. Be grounded in something. Like for me, it's faith. So that is the filter through which I try to put everything. My work, my personal relationships, if you are not grounded, everything just kind of blows you in any direction. It's a very dangerous place to be. Let me speak specifically about career, because that's what we're talking about. It's a very dangerous place to be because you're not any new something trendy, in content creation, trends are constantly evolving. If I was latching onto every single trend, hey, I would be I don't even know actually who you would have before you today. It's, no, you have to have a place where you stand, so that no matter, because change is constant and it's forever, but having like that foundation, whatever that is for you, helps you know how to move, how to navigate, how to deal with relating with people, with yourself, with the world, and, whoever you're going to serve. So be grounded in something. Be grounded in something. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much, Fiona. You close off saying being grounded is one of the ways in which I think we may be able to sort of cross out or get out of this particular box where many of us lawyers think we belong. And as you are speaking, I was reminded in my first year at Macquarie Law School, I remember that, when you're still young and excited, you've gotten your first reading list, you're talking to everybody who you think you want to be, either they're at LDC or they're in their fourth year. And I remember hearing a lot of talk around, for a person to be a real lawyer, you have to practice, So I think for my first year and second year, I was thinking now these things of mine that I wanted to do of helping people as a lawyer, they may not be possible. Because if you're not a litigating lawyer, if you're not at a law firm in Kampala somewhere, you are not a real lawyer. And I remember even when I joined that NGO space then a few years ago, I think it's a comment that I got from many people I was in class with. Hey, Kemi, you're now doing those NGO things as fun and serious. And because the whole law school, you're thinking, I want to be like counsel, senior counsel, Chazi, and all these things that you read. And therefore, a pivoting is usually, I don't know if it's very common for engineers, architects, and people in other careers. But I think for many women lawyers, it's a thing that we are grappling with. And I'm very privileged to be part of FIDA, which is really also essentially an institution that builds capacity of women lawyers to explore. I think 10 years ago, 5 years ago, there was many men running to do oil and gas, and there were not many women. And then right now we see many women getting into that. So I guess that's a plus. So the next part, really, Fiona, we wanted you to just share with us what you see or what advice that you can give to many of our members, and really we have a cross-cutting, edge, if I could call it, of many of the women lawyers in our association. And many of them are exploring side projects, online platforms, public facing work, which you are into as a woman lawyer. What has helped you build that sense of authenticity and consistency online? Because it's also, I know, very difficult. And because of the many challenges that I know many of us still on this session have witnessed, online violence and bullying of women that are in the public space, or women that speak out on contentious issues. How are you managing to stay consistent and not backing down because of those challenges? And how are you being authentic? How are you ensuring that your brand is one that is associated with authenticity and consistency?
The first thing that came to my mind, or at least one of the first things, was you have to know how to choose your battles. Not every battle is yours. Some are actually not even worth your time. If you attempt to fight every single battle, you are going to be an exhausted woman, my sister. You are going to be an exhausted woman. There are some things that you have to leave alone. Me, I am an advocate of using the block button as frequently as you need, especially on X. Block day and night whenever you need to. Because the truth is, there are so many, the online space is so pros and cons, right? The fact that it's so open also means that, people take advantage of anonymity to start up fights that aren't even necessary and you need to be able to sort of sieve and discern. Some things are just not worth your time, and so block some people, block some things. Your mental health is very important, my sister. Do not be tempted to fight every single battle, or maybe be tempted, but don't give in to fighting every single battle. Not every battle is one worth fighting. And as far as authenticity goes, authenticity is such an interesting thing. It's good that we talk about it more, but it's strange. Like, have you ever talked about something over and over again, and then all of a sudden it starts to feel odd? Because I feel like authenticity is just your you-ness. Who is you? Just who are you in your you-ness, if that makes sense. Like, who am I when everything else is stripped away? And that is who I should just simply be able to be, whether I am in person or I am on your screen. If you can be able to just be that's because even as an audience, if you're, whatever content you've consumed, when you listen to someone or watch them, whatever, a lot of the times, if not all, you can tell when someone is being genuine and when they're not. I know that sometimes, people are very good at putting on certain fronts, but a lot of the time you can tell. And so for me, I think that knowledge helps me to just be me, I mean, I suppose I could have put on a blazer to join this call, but like, if you followed me for even 5 seconds, that's a front. That's not, I simply being that version of you that is just you, easily, organically, is the best thing. I think one of the best ways, one of the best tools to be able to maintain that online, because I know the online spaces, it's just got all these pressures and people look a certain way and people sound a certain way and all of these things. Being able to retreat from social media, like having that within the structure of my life, has been really helpful actually for me just remaining who I am. Because you have to leave social media sometimes. You have to take some breaks. You have to, and those breaks, like there's a time, I'm trying now once a year to take a month off. But then there's just the normal day to day, like over the weekend, I have specific windows. If I must, a lot of the time, if you follow me, you'll see that weekends, either I'll say one or two things or I won't say anything at all. So being intentional about those breaks, like this is what my schedule looks like, is really important, I think, for all of us, even if you don't create content, even if you are a consumer, because that consistent consumption starts to build, I don't know, things in your mind. Things that without, it's subconscious and it's intentional, because that's how the algorithms are built to adjust the way you think about certain things. I mean, an example is just nudity. The algorithm is normalizing nudity to a certain extent that one day you're just seeing some people and you're like, oh, whatever, you just scroll and you've seen a bare bottom and you're just going, and then those bare bottoms come and they keep going. You have to be able to withdraw sometimes, because it's a lot and it keeps on morphing your mind in ways that you almost aren't in control of. But what you can control is how much or how little content you're consuming, like just scrolling. You know, what do they call it? Is it called death scrolling? That one, just that endless scroll. You're in your bed and you scroll, and it's 9 p.m. and then you blink and it's 1 a.m. Yeah, that's one of the ways to find yourself with a new accent, or to find yourself with, I don't know. It's very strange. It's very strange. But yeah, just be. I guess it goes back to also being grounded. If you can just be this one that people know, or that your people know, you'll find that people appreciate that, whether it's online or anybody or anywhere else. So yeah, that's my that's my 2 cents on that one.
Thank you so much, Kemi. I really like that you're giving us also really tips for our campaign on technology facilitated violence. Some of the real practical ways, as a person who is looking to do work that has a very strong touch of social media, a strong touch of the people outside, sort of taking in your content, and that's the way you make money. You've sort of given us a few tips that we could share on our campaign, on how creators, on how lawyers that are exploring use of social media through the work that they do, they could use. So this is really the last one, Kemi, on when you look back, right? What mindset or habits have helped you build this particular life and career that actually feels yours? Because from where we began from, for every single time I've had you speak, your thoughts, your opinions seem like they're yours. Like someone sat down and thought through why they think women, I'm just giving an example, women should be in the kitchen or that women should be in the boardroom. So looking back, what are some of those habits? What are some of those that you could share with us?
The habits. One of the things is just building discipline around pretty much everything, to be honest. I'm sure you've heard before that thing of motivation can only take you so far, because there's plenty of days we wake up not motivated, right? Just give me a thumbs up if you know what I mean, like that there's days that you wake up and which motivation are you talking about? So discipline has and continues to be something very important to me. I've never been a lover of nonfiction books. Anyone who knows me will tell you, I think I started reading nonfiction. It's maybe been like a year and a half. And even then, I'm also still very picky with what nonfiction I read. I need it to feel like you're telling me a story. That's what I need. So I genuinely enjoyed reading Atomic Habits. And it's such a beautiful and practical guide on building disciplines in your life. So that has served me immensely. If you are self-employed, if you're self-employed and then on top of being self-employed, you even work from home, like I primarily do, we work remotely for the most part. It seems like maybe you would need less discipline, but actually you need like a double dose, if not triple, because you have this autonomy over your work and life and time that you could either, if I decided to sleep till midday, guess what? No one is going to call me out. If I decided to work till midnight, even that. So it's so easy for people who work in this way to either lean towards one extreme or the other. Either there's no rest, you're working a million hours, because there's no one to stop you. There's no at 5 is when we clock out. And then, on the other side, you could also just do nothing, right? So discipline has been one of my greatest tools. I love that that's something people even associate me with, because I don't know, routine is a very meaningful tool. It's even when things are shaky, I know it's something I can lean on, that this is how the day goes, even when things are not absolutely making sense. And in continuing in my routine somewhere, I can just, I don't know, it calms me down. I'm like, okay, no, things can keep going. So then I can figure out whatever is shaky. So discipline for sure is an important thing. I think I'll go back also to that thing I said of just being grounded. I mean, it's even difficult to build discipline if you're not grounded in something. So just be grounded, whatever that looks like for you in life. Have a place where you stand firmly, like a place that's like unquestionable. This is where I stand. That's really, really important. I have found that to be meaningful for my journey. And also be intentional about people. Be intentional about people. And that comes in so many ways. Being an adult is just such a busy thing. There's always things that we are doing. There's always something, and in pursuing all of the things and the errands and I think people can fall away. It can be, you can find yourself not maintaining, or like watering. You're not watering the friendships that are most important, or not watering even like parents and siblings. It is crazy how easy it is for those relationships to become distant once you're an adult. So be mindful about people. And so it comes in that way, but also in the way of, I think a lot of the time when you talk about personal branding, we're only talking about very technical things. What do your pictures look like online? Stuff like, and that stuff is important. But personal branding also has the angle or the aspect of how, like when they ask you about Elizabeth Kemigisha, who works at FIDA, what do people say? Do they say she's kind and important? When I Google you, what comes up? Do I go to your LinkedIn page and it's just chaos? All those things are important, but the really, really personal bit, that what do people say when they are asked about you? I think that's really important. Just how you're showing up in your workplaces, in your personal relationships is I think it's a small but significant thing that I found that it's often what has had my name mentioned in rooms that I've never entered. It's that, oh no, she was attentive when we did this and this thing, or she kept time when we did 1, 2, 3, and yet these other people didn't. And God bless us, Ugandans, time is something we grapple with. But what's interesting? This is a side note. When you persist with being the kind of person that is intentional about time, the people around you start to change. They don't actually have a choice. You find people starting, maybe they're only doing it for you. I don't know, that's now a them thing, but you find that people around you start to feel uncomfortable. Oh no, I can't be late because that person's always going to be early. It's a winning thing. It doesn't always seem that way, but it's a winning thing. So yeah, that's, I'm not
Thank
sure. Oh,
Yes. You close off with time and time. Those are comments that I make myself when I'm going for a meeting with somebody, and I know they're usually there even an hour before. You find yourself pushing yourself to get there before because you fear to get ashamed, because the person you're meeting actually took the effort to be there on time. And that's really the last question. I know that we are already out of time. It's 4 minutes past 2 and we should be closing now. I don't know if you have any comment or question that you want to ask Kemi before we close. But really to thank you so much in the meantime, Kemi Cha, for joining today's coffee series. for making that time. Really, like I mentioned, you're someone that I have personally admired for a minute, for the kind of work that you do, but also I know that you represent a constituents of women that are not very common here, that you have left the mainstream law and you're not doing anything directly related to what you went to school to do, but you're really utilizing the skill and passion and all these different things that you have to impact lives of many, but also motivate many of us. You ask about what motivation, and it's true, there are mornings when you wake up and it doesn't matter who is motivating you, there is just no strength. You need to get it from within you to wake up and do what you have to do. So thank you so much, Kemigisha. It's very nice to speak to you today and to acquaint myself with you. Thank you for making time for FIDA and for everybody who is joined today's session. Please feel free to join us for our next episode of the Coffee series, which usually happens on Friday. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for hosting me.